Hey, folks. Welcome to this week's Amazon interview live coaching from Day One Careers. My name is Evgeny, and I'm the co founder of Day One Careers, and it's great to be with you guys here today. So, hopefully, this week we're going to be together with Gigi. She is just joining, and OMG. You want to say hello? Actually, I have no idea who this is. Like, it says Gigi, but who
No,
knows?
it's not Gigi. I'm somebody else.
Gisela. There you go.
It's so not a new haircut. That's funny, Nyan. Hang on. I want to see if I can sort out my background here because you can see the trash in my house. Hang on. How do I do that?
Yeah, where are you? You're in a different place, aren't you?
No, I'm in my same place, but I've had to move things around because I'm having my windows changed. So hang on, let's see what I can do. Can I do something with this? Can I change my background? I don't know. Can
Why
I?
don't you experiment with the background settings
Ooh.
while... Ooh! Yes. Folks, for YouTube and StreamYard tips, come to Amazon interview coaching sessions from Day
Oh
One
my
Careers.
gosh, it's so funny. I'm killing myself with this one. All right, hang on.
Right.
You
If you
keep
want to have
talking
fun
on.
while I'm introducing, I can talk about what we're doing here, and you can just have fun and sort of, play with these things. Right. While this person is playing with different settings, so I'm gonna introduce us. So obviously, this person is our amazing Gigi. I'm Evgeny. We run Day One Careers. We used to work for Amazon, so we were both senior marketers. We were both hiring managers. We were both prolific interviewers. And Gigi, on top of everything, was also a bar raiser right now. And I can't take this seriously. Okay, moving on. So, at some point in time, both Gigi and I figured that there's plenty of candidates who had amazing functional profiles and excellent resumes, but were still bombing interviews because they were just unprepared about what it's like to interview in a behavioral interview setting with Amazon. And we thought that, you know what, this was something that we wanted to fix. And so at some point in time, both Gigi and I created our own businesses that would, whose mission, I guess, was to make expert Amazon interview coaching available to everyone. So she created Amazon Interview Wiz Academy. I created Day One Careers, and then at some point in time, one candidate who we ended up working with together said to us, "You guys are the most credible industry. You should talk to each other." And so we talked to each other, and then it all ended up with us merging together as Day One Careers. So here we are, and we do these things every week to answer any questions that you guys have about behavioral interviews at Amazon. Have I missed anything, Gigi?
No, that's everything. I'm just having
Okay,
such fun messing around with all of this. Sorry, I'm totally
okay. Shall I
distracting.
continue then? You can keep on having fun. Right. So, folks, the way this works is, first of all, tell us where you guys are from. Tell us if you can see us, hear us, if everything's coming through. I see that we've got YouTube online. We've got some LinkedIn comments that are coming through. So, sounds like all the settings are working well. So, the way that we run these sessions, folks, is you post your questions in the chat and we try to answer them to the best of our ability. But just so that you know, if you're going to post something along the lines of, "Hey, I've got an interview for a construction manager for AWS. Can you tell me what functional questions they're going to be asking me?" We're probably going to have to decline to answer because there's just way too many functional job families at Amazon. And it would be impossible for us to know exactly how they assess candidates functionally in every single job family. On the other hand, if you ask us something like, "Hey, folks, I have a job interview with Amazon in a week's time. Do you have any tips?" So for general tips, we've got plenty of them. Just go to our YouTube channel where you might be watching this live if you're watching it on YouTube. So we've got plenty of videos with general Amazon interview tips. they are as good as ever. So here, try to give us something a bit more concrete and specific about your personal case, your situation, and keep it to all things behavioral. So I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything else that I've missed by way of housekeeping, Gigi?
No, just if someone's got a long question, just to make sure that we know part one, part two, etc. And then I think that is everything.
Yes, guys. If you have a long question, you'll notice that the chat bar in there is a bit limited in terms of how many words and characters you can add. So just treat it as a Twitter thread, you know. So give us part one, part two, if it's a multi-part type question. But otherwise, let's keep those questions going. And I've got London calling in my head right now. The song
Hi,
from
this is
Bravo
Gigi
20.
reporting from just outside the Houses of Parliament.
Amazing. Cool. Right. So let's see what we've got. We've got some hellos here. We've got and let's see, we've got some questions. Oh, we've got some feedback here. So Neon says that they've gone through most of our videos on YouTube. Amazing content. Really appreciate it. Well, thank you. That's why we're doing this, right? Cool. We've got, and this person is from Saudi Arabia. Hello, hello, Saudi Arabia. KSA, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Right. Cool. So we've got one question actually. Gigi, I'm going to put this up on the screen and I'm going to read it. But meanwhile, you can maybe start fishing for the questions that you want to answer while I'm going to try and handle this one. So I would like to know how I can improve in the interview opportunities if you never get any clue about what was wrong. To be honest, I feel a little frustrated with a couple of shots I had in the past. I just want to see if there's a second part to this question. No, so I guess you're sounds like you're looking for the clues in how you did with your interviews to know whether there's anything that you can improve. And I'm going to say that unfortunately, when it comes to clues from the your actual interview experience, it's very difficult to make anything of it because some interviewers will tell you exactly how the interview went. Some interviewers will maintain the poker face and they won't tell you. And this tends to be the default state of how things are going. Most candidates, they wouldn't be able to tell at all about how interview has gone. And also, to be honest, your interview might have gone well in the situation, but because Amazon pulls together all of your interviewers at the end into a debrief where they can change their mind in terms of whether they want to extend an offer to you or not, based on the feedback from the rest of the interviewers. Even if your individual interview went well, there's absolutely no way to know whether the hiring decision will be to hire you, to make you an offer, or not. And unfortunately, Amazon doesn't tend to provide much feedback after the interviews. So really, the only way for sure to know what you can improve on is to and I must add this plug here, Gigi. Please forgive me for that, but to get a coaching session or to with any one of us, or to use our AI coach product, where you can get expert feedback on your interview responses, and this is where we might be able to identify what went wrong. Would you have anything to add, Gigi?
No, you're never going to know from Amazon what went wrong. So the only thing you can do is do a mock interview with somebody else who knows what they're talking about. And obviously, they won't be able to tell you what you did wrong in your Amazon interview, but they'll certainly be able to give you feedback on the experience that they've had with you there and then. And let's also remember that just because you didn't get a job, it doesn't mean something went wrong. You could have been the very, very best version of yourself and done everything that you could do right, but you simply just weren't the person that they were looking for. So, it's always worth kind of trying not to self-flagellate when you come out of an interview and you haven't secured the job. On many occasions, you will have done a great job and you would have done everything you possibly could do. It just wasn't the job for you. So that's a little bit of extra advice that I have.
Yes, indeed.
Right. So SK2 is asking us quite a lot of questions about internal interviews. So I'm going to kind of I'm going to pick through them and give SK2 my thoughts on them. But I'm just warning you, SK2, internal interviews are a different kettle of fish to interviewing externally or running an external interview as a hiring manager. There's no bar raiser oversight, so it's a lot more I won't say loosey-goosey isn't the right word, but there's a lot more room for a hiring manager to put their own spin on their interview mechanics and the type of thing that they're looking for internally. Because you're an internal candidate, you're already at the bar at the level that you're at. So the interview with the hiring manager isn't really or shouldn't necessarily be to identify whether you are raising the bar on particular leadership principles. Usually internal interviews tend to be much more functionally focused because they want to know whether you can actually do the work. And they might throw in some leadership principle questions because they want to know whether you are strong on particular leadership principles that they particularly care about. So let me just pick through some of your questions. So you've got one. Oh, it's another one. Where's the first one? It says another one from my side. Okay. So you have a question, how to answer what's going to be your impact in this role. Okay, so Yevgeny and I don't know what this role is in order to be able to give you specific feedback. If someone was asking me this question, I think I would be looking at the job description and asking myself, what is it that the job description suggests they're looking for and that they need from the person in this role? Because then you know what outputs they're looking for. Then I would simply cross-reference with what I believe to be my superpowers or my personal skill sets. And then I would match the two up and I would identify a couple of key areas, because usually job descriptions have multiple key areas in them, something like 8 or 10. I'd pick a few of those and match together my skill set, what they're looking for, and then how my skill set would go up, enable me to deliver that impact for them. So that would be how I would approach that. Would you approach it any differently, Yevgeny?
No, no. It's a very solid approach for a very classic interview question, I must say.
Yes, indeed. Again, you probably wouldn't get this as an external candidate, but certainly as an internal candidate, there's no reason why somebody wouldn't and shouldn't ask you this question. You've got a few there, SK2. So let me just see if there's ones, because I want to make sure that what we cover here is useful for the majority of people on our channel, rather than specific to one individual and not helpful to anyone else. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to pull this one up. What does it mean when the interviewer asks, was there anything you learned during the interview loop that surprised you? Oh, gosh, I've got that little thumb up thing. It doesn't mean anything. It just means someone's come up with some random question that they think is probably a clever question to ask. I struggle to think of what I, as a hiring manager, would expect to learn from a candidate who answered this question, and indeed what I would do with that information. But to answer your question, it doesn't mean anything. It just means someone's come up with a question that they think is smart and interesting, and hopefully for them it is smart and interesting. I'm not sure how I personally would use it. Yevgeny, would you have a clever way of using the answer to that question?
They just probably Googled it. They have no idea what they're talking about. So do not work for this hiring manager.
Okay. Do you want to pick another one then, Yevgeny?
Sure. Cool. I'm in a salty mood today, guys. Get ready. Okay. Let's keep going. Here, how do I convince recruiters that I'm open to learning new tools? How do I show proactiveness? To be honest, let's put it this way: the job of a recruiter is to figure out if your profile fits functionally and roughly from the signals, the various seniority signals that you can pack into your CV/resume, whether you're kind of in the ballpark, you will fit the grade of the role. And typically, these soft skills is not something that you can sort of demonstrate in your resume. Then, if you go into the recruiter screen and you talk to recruiters, and this comes up, in most cases, recruiters will either ask you a behavioral interview question, in which case you'll need to share a story of the time when you actually demonstrated these behaviors. And if they don't pop a behavioral interview question there, and they just plainly ask you, so um, are you open to learning new tools? Well, then you convert this question in your head into something behavioral, like tell me about a time when you've learned new tools, and you share a story when you've done it. The easiest thing is just, there's a rule of thumb. If anyone throws a random question at you, like these two, right, and these entirely random questions, you just convert them into, in your head, you convert them into behavioral interview questions, and share a story if you have one. You granted, unless you know that this is something that this particular company or this particular team is looking for, you might have to come up with one on the spot and recall one. So that's definitely something, that you'll have to, it's the challenge you'll have to address in situ. But the easiest way to answer all of these questions is to tell a story where you have demonstrated whatever it is that they're looking for in the past. Anything you'd add, Gigi?
No, I guess I would be curious to know the genesis of that question. So, why are you asking us this question? Is this a problem that you've anticipated? Is there something that someone has said to you as part of the recruitment team that there's a skill set that you're missing? I think I would like a bit more context behind why you're asking us that question. So, if you've got some time, there's plenty of time here because there's a small group of us today. So bash that down, and hopefully maybe that will give us a little bit more insight to give you something a little bit more specific. Gosh, I think people must not like my new hair, Yevgeny. We've got a very small community and it seems to be dropping by the minute. So I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody with my new hair. I bought some wigs for some new TikTok videos that I'm hoping to create. And I thought I'd try it out today. I've never had hair this long. I'm not sure I like it. You can let me know in the comments whether you think I look ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. So
Gigi's compensating for my lack of hair. This is what's happening.
maybe you should buy some wigs too, Yevgeny. They were very
Maybe I
reasonably
should.
priced. Very reasonably priced. I'll wear a different one next week, and maybe if anyone comes back, they can say whether they prefer this one or next week's one. Anyway, okay. So, what is a reasonable time for a story? Okay, great question, and one we haven't had for a while. So happy to go over that one again. You'll get very, very differing opinions about this, which I guess is why you're coming and asking us. Our view is that it kind of depends on what level you are interviewing at. The more junior you are, the less complicated the challenges that you'll be facing in your role, and therefore the less time you're going to need to tell your story. The inverse is true as you get more senior. So, our recommendation would be a different set of timelines for different levels. As a broad principle, Day One Careers believes that you need to put on the table any information that you believe is relevant to the answer that you're giving. So for us, answers that are 2-3 minutes long are not likely to deliver the insight that the interviewer is looking for when it comes to you articulating to them your behaviors. That's what they're looking for, behaviors. So our bias would always be to give more information. I won't say talk more because it's not the same thing, to give more information than less information, because if you give less in the hope that the interviewer will ask you follow-up questions to draw the relevant information out of you, and then they don't, you are completely stuffed. So we are all of the philosophy of own your own destiny. You make sure that you put on the table the information that you need so you're not dependent on somebody else to think to ask you the right question. So how long is the right length answer? So broadly speaking, and this is very broad, we would say somewhere between 4 and 5 minutes is about right if you are operating at an L5 level. If you're in an L6 level, somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes. And then if you are at an L7 level, somewhere between 7 and 9 or 10 minutes will probably get you where you need to be. So obviously you'd need to know what level you're operating at, and you can generally get a sense of that from the job description with either the number of years that they are looking for experience of. If you're in Europe, you won't be able to see that for kind of ageism, inclusivity type legal reasons, but often the job description will let you know. The job title will let you know. And if you still can't tell from the job title, ask your recruiter. In theory, there's no real reason why they shouldn't tell you what level the role is at. Okay, that's it. Do you have anything to add, Yevgeny?
Nope, no, I don't. All good. Well, I'm going to put this one on the screen. So the question is, how many candidates are usually considered for interviews for one position, i.e. initial screening and loop? I'm not, so there's definitely a funnel, but it has an Amazonian twist to it, because as you know, Amazon is a first past the post interview type process, which means that they don't interview a few candidates and then compare them against each other and then make a job offer. What they do is they start the process, they start screening candidates until they, let's say, have a few, I don't know, maybe between 1 and 3 loops arranged. And then once they go through these loops, they would hope that they might be able to offer someone the job, and they have to offer the job to the first one who actually raises the bar in the loop. Now, the specific dimensions of that funnel, as in, so to get to anything between 1 to 3 loops scheduled, how many screens you need to get to and how many resume reviews you need to get to, it varies. There's literally no data on this that I have seen. Maybe Gigi, through your bar raising experience you've seen, you might have specific data. From memory, I'd say it also depends on the job. I mean, some jobs that are very niche, you'll be screening a lot of candidates. So for some marketing jobs that I remember us hiring in one of the teams that I worked in, I'd say you'd get 10 screens, maybe more than 10 screens to get to one loop. So it was quite competitive. But hey, I don't know. Gigi, what's your experience with that?
Yeah, there's no data published about that. And it varies enormously from role to role and also job family to job family. People like to know that information, but it's useless information, really. There's nothing you can do about it. And most of it is actually broadly luck, because it's a first past the post process. It's the first person past the post. So it's very random and just luck, which is different from other organizations which say, oh, we want to get at least 15 resumes in front of the hiring manager, and then they have to choose 5, and then of the 5 they get to choose 1. It just doesn't work like that. So it's completely random. It's massively variable. It's all luck, and it's not a data point that's helpful for anyone anyway. So I would say don't worry about it.
Indeed.
Okay, so we've got like 4 parts for Neon's question. So should we work our way through this? It sounds like there might be kind of a lot of situational information. So I haven't read it all. So let's hope that there's nothing woo, or we wouldn't want to cover at the end. So first part. Okay, I finished my interview 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, you sent a message to the recruiter and asked if there was any updates. She told you everything is positive and got contacted later on a phone call. She told you, congratulations on passing the first stage. Okay. And there's going to be another interview, which is the panel, and explain to you a little bit about the process. Okay, cool. Sounds good so far. Feeling positive about this. Then, okay. Then always worries me. Okay. I asked about the normal time they take for onboarding and everything after that. She told me the available compensation for the role, and I answered no problem with it. Okay, I'm waiting for that moment where you're kind of starting to feel a bit anxious.
Coming. It's in the fourth part. It's in the fourth episode.
It's all going to go wrong any minute now. Okay, let's see. You sent a reminder 1 week ago, but until now they didn't arrange a panel or contact you yet, and the job I applied for has reposted at Amazon Jobs. Should I be worried? Okay, so if the job's been reposted, I'm not sure what reposted means. to begin with, because I'm not sure whether, Nyon, you were saying that the job posting came down and you were still in the process moving through, and then now they've reposted the role, or whether you've just noticed that they've reposted the role even though the role was always posted. So that's a little unclear. So let's just forget about that for the moment, because it's a data point that isn't adding value to us in this conversation. So the broad problem is your recruiter has gone dark on you, and you were supposed to be moving to panel and you've not heard anything, right? That's kind of the key issue here. So all you can really do is continue to follow up with the recruiter and try and get them to contact you back. Now, there are a couple of reasons why, there's a few reasons why a recruiter, it's so weird having this hair. It's just struggling with it. There are a couple of reasons why a recruiter might go dark. The first is they've gone on holiday, on vacation, and haven't done a very good job of handing over to somebody else, and things are falling between the cracks. So that's one possibility. Another possibility is your recruiter has refocused on other priority roles. That used to happen to me quite a lot when I was hiring. I only had one recruiter, and I shared that recruiter with other teams. And my leadership would say, we would track the pipeline in leadership meetings of where we were and hiring for the roles that we had across the org. And we would decide what were the priority roles that the recruiter would really need to focus on. And that would change. So it's possible that that exercise has happened. The recruiter has had to realign their focus to another role, and they're simply deprioritizing progressing the role that you've applied for. The final thing that could happen, and we're going to hope that this isn't the case because it's a bit naughty, is that they filled that role, and what they've reposted isn't that role, but is a different job rec number, which makes it a new role with essentially the same job requirements. It's the same job, but it's a different bit of headcount in the organization. And your recruiter just hasn't caught up yet and let you know that the particular role that you were applying for, think of it as a number. If you were applying for role 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they haven't let you know yet that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 has been closed. And then hopefully say to you, okay, well, that's closed, but 3, 4, 5, 6 is now open. So I'm going to move your application from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are the various things that I can think that might have happened. That doesn't help you because that's all background stuff that you can't do anything with. So all I can suggest to you, and Yevgeny can let me know if he thinks that there's anything else, or let you know, is keep following up with your recruiter. And I would also say, if you can find the person that you had your first round interview with on LinkedIn or somewhere like that, it might just be worth reaching out to them with a very, very polite message to say, do they know anything about what's happening with the status of this particular job? You were expecting to hear back about an invitation to the next round and you haven't heard from the recruiter. Can they offer you any insight? And then maybe that will either give you the answer to which one of the 4 that I just described it is, or they might just be able to stick a rocket up what's going on inside and move your case along further. Is there anything else that you'd say, Yevgeny?
No, I just noticed that Neon added clarification at the very end of the comments thread, and that clarification, to be honest, even with that clarification, the advice would be exactly the same. Just keep following up. There's absolutely nothing else that you can do, and there's 1.5 million things that can happen on the Amazon's internal side to trigger the reposting of that job on LinkedIn, because these things are all connected. So nothing major to add. Right. There's a question there from Shells that's waiting for you, Gigi, because it's addressed to you directly. So I'm gonna take the next question after that, and then perhaps you can return to a question from Shells. So the question I'm going to take is this one: what are the important points to note in the first round for senior product manager role? Well, first of all, the point to note, Ayaz, is that the way that your first interview will go is very hard to predict, because these first phone interviews, they're not super regimented, and they can consist of pretty much anything that the team, the interviewer, or indeed the hiring manager, if they're taking that phone screen, if whatever they want to throw at you. They can throw a functional question at you. They can throw a leadership principles, behavioral interview question at you. They can ask you, why do you want to work for Amazon? Tell me about yourself, all of that stuff. So all of these responses, as much as possible, we would recommend that you prepare in advance. And my overall advice is just take note what the question is and answer the question. That will go a long way. Anything you would add, Gigi? And you're on mute.
Sorry, my dog was going crazy at the front door, so I muted and then forgot I muted. No, I mean, nothing specific. Like you say, it's impossible to predict what's going to come up in a first screen. So you just have to be prepared to cover off behavioral questions, functional questions, talking about, tell me about yourself. Why do you want this role type stuff? And unfortunately, you just got to be prepared for everything, like Yevgeny said, which is a bit unfortunate. We would love to be able to tell you exactly what to focus on, but unfortunately, that's not the nature of the beast at this point. Okay. Will I go back to Shells then, Yevgeny?
If you could, that would be great.
Right. Well, Shells likes my hair. Thank you, Shells. I'm not sure. Come back next week, Shells, and you can give me some advice on whether you like the next one better. Anyway, good morning from LA. Nice sunshine, I'm sure. Okay, as a former bar raiser, were there certain themes that you look for in the interview that would help the person move to an offer? So there's nothing that I would look for as a bar raiser that Yevgeny wouldn't have looked for as a hiring manager or a general member of the panel. I'm afraid it's a little bit of a triumvirate of things. The first is impact. No, it's not the first. I'm not going to put this in any particular order, by the way. I didn't mean to suggest that. So impact is really, really important. It's really, really important to articulate super clearly in your answers how you have moved the dial for the organization that you are working in, because you can demonstrate amazing behaviors, but if you're not actually making a material contribution, then Amazon's going to be thinking, well, these behaviors are great, but if it doesn't actually result in anything material for our top or bottom line, what value is this person going to add? So you need to be super, super clear and specific on the value that you've added to that organization. Make sure you put it in context. So don't just say, I'm going to use sales because it's just the easiest example. I generated revenue of $1 million, because I've no idea if $1 million is a lot of revenue for your organization. So be very specific. I generated revenues of $1 million. Our average sale was $500,000, which obviously meant it was 100% plus on the average sale value. So you put it in context and I get a sense of whether that's actually meaningful for your organization or not. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I'm sorry, it's the leadership principles. All interviewers at Amazon are essentially looking to see, how does this person demonstrate the leadership principles, which means you have to talk about how you did something, not what you did, but how you went about doing it, because that is behavior as opposed to outputs, which is what. So you really, really need to understand the difference between talking about how you did something and talking about what you did. That's the second thing. And then, is there a third thing that I feel we really need, that I was really looking for? I guess significance of contribution. So I think that's the third thing, in the sense of, I want to know that you're working on things that really matter for your organization. Amazon wants to hire people that other organizations don't want to let go. essentially. So they want to really see that you're the type of person who is working on the really, really important things for those organizations. So when you set up your, let's use STAR here, when you set up the situation, you explain what's going on functionally. I would always recommend you help your interviewer understand why the hell anyone would be bothered that this thing is happening. Why is it important that you came along and fixed it or grabbed hold of the opportunity? So I think that's probably the three things that, you know, if you've got a tick, tick, tick on those things in an interview, regardless if you're the bar raiser or a hiring manager or an interviewer, thematically, those are the things that start to make you quite exciting. Would you add anything, Evgeny?
No, I think this was all very nicely explained in detail. But let's see what else we've got. So I'm skipping some of the more general questions. So Ganesh, I see your question. You're asking any suggestions on the loop, just a general question. I have to refer you to our YouTube channel. All of the generic advice, not generic, it's an incredibly specific advice, but in general on interviewing with Amazon, it's all there. And what else do we have? We have a good question here from Sirs, and the question is it more important to impress bar raisers in the interview? So we've always been guiding everyone that we work with that it is equally as important to impress bar raisers as anyone else during your interview panel, because at the end of the day, the decision will be made during the debrief. And while, yes, it is true that the only two people who need to agree to hire someone is the hiring manager and the bar raiser, both hiring manager and the bar raiser might change their mind depending on how the candidate interviewed with other interviewers during the loop. So don't save your best sellers just for the bar raiser. Spread them equally across all of your interviewers, and that's the strategy that will maximize your chances to get that inclined decision. Anything you'd add, Gigi?
No, nothing I would add. It's all good. Okay, so I'm going to pick this one from Sears again. Okay. So which levels is writing assignment required to be completed? Okay. So funnily enough, I had a very interesting exchange on LinkedIn with somebody. And I know you're not them because I told them the answer, but this is for your benefit, Evgeny, as well. They had bought a book from someone who was providing insight on how to answer Amazon behavioral questions. Said person had never worked for Amazon, so was clearly getting their information secondhand. They said in their book that most L5s are asked to do a writing assignment, and said person who contacted me because they were starting to panic because they hadn't been sent their link for a writing assignment. They were emailing their recruiter and their recruiter wasn't emailing them back. They were worried, so they messaged me. So the answer I gave them is the answer I'm going to give you, Sears, which is the process is that L6 and above are given a writing assignment, regardless of what job family you are interviewing for. Some L5s are asked to do a writing assignment, but they would be people who are, sorry, now I've got my friend calling me. There we go. They would generally be people who are in jobs that are very writing dependent. So people who are product managers, as an example, because product managers write a lot of docs because they're responsible for products. So they write PRFAQs and that type of thing. So generally, an L6 or above could expect a writing assessment. Most people get the same writing assessment, which is effectively you're offered two different behavioral questions to pick one, and then write your assessment based on answering that leadership principle question, that behavioral question. Some teams have a different writing assignment because they have a specialist type approach to writing. So Evgeny and I have worked, for example, with some people from legal counsel who are given a different type of writing assignment. I think also I've seen different writing assignments come for technical writers, people who are writing technical documentation for AWS. They get slightly different assignments. So I think that covers it all. I don't think I've missed anything on that, Evgeny, have I?
No, you haven't. No, in fact, just yesterday, I've coached a candidate who was interviewing for an L5 corporate counsel role, and she had a legal writing assignment indeed, and I thought, oh, interesting, an L5, but yes, indeed, it was specialized. So
Awesome.
yeah, awesome. Okay, so we've got a question from Ivana here. Some advice for someone who was laid off in Amazon and is returning back. I'm having a panel today. So you have a panel today and looking for advice. My advice is,
Sounds like Ivana's a boomerang.
she is a boomerang. Yes, she's a boomerang. But I guess, she's a boomerang and she has her panel today. So they're interviewing her. But seeing as she is an ex-Amazonian who wants to become an Amazonian again, and she came to us for advice on the same day as her loop, all I would say is relax, chill, think positive thoughts, and it's all going to work out. I don't have anything else on such a short notice. What do you think, Gigi?
So
You've done this before? I don't know.
have I looped boomerangs? Yes, I think I've looped a couple of boomerangs. So, Ivana, I can give you some perspective on what it feels like as a bar raiser or an interviewer looping someone who's a boomerang, which is you go in with very high hopes. Nobody wants to be interviewing. This is the hard truth of it. Right? Everyone's got a day job. And I'm sure you know this, Ivana, if you were in Amazon. Everyone's got a day job and they're very, very busy with their day jobs. And interviewing is quite frankly just a distraction from their day job. It's a necessary evil. That's not to say that everyone walks through the door going, oh, God, I can't be bothered with this. Oh, I wish this didn't happen. But nonetheless, you will definitely shut down your laptop lid when you're going to an interview thinking, okay. No one skips towards an interview. So when you've got a boomerang, your hopes are very high because you're thinking the probability of this being your last interview on this job rec is really high because they've made it in before. So you've got a much higher probability of success than someone who's never been an Amazonian before. So I wanted to give you that as a little bit of a gift in the sense of you can be sure that everyone is coming to your interview really keen for you to succeed with a greater belief that you are going to succeed. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of a boost. The second thing I would say, and I'm sure you've thought of it, it does obviously depend on how long you were at Amazon before you got laid off. I would be leaning into stories from my Amazon days rather than picking stories from prior Amazon, simply because it's all much more transferable. It's all much more relatable. And as they're thinking about, are you bar raising, it's going to become much easier for them to use your Amazon stories to kind of calibrate you against other Amazonians than it would be pre-Amazon stories. Now, if you weren't at Amazon for very long, that's I appreciate going to be quite challenging. But if you can, I would be leaning into your Amazon stories. And the final thing that I would say to you, Ivana, which I would never say to anybody that had not been an Amazonian in the past, is I would feel free to name drop LPs. We always say to candidates, do not name drop the LPs. It seems really clumsy and that you're trying to kind of impress us that you know what the LPs are. But as an Amazonian, we don't work there anymore, do we, Evgeny? I keep forgetting that. You speak in LPs every day. It's just part of the natural language. So as an ex-Amazonian, I think you have permission to drop LPs when you're talking about your stories, because that's you speaking in the language that is a shared language that you have earned the right to. Okay. There is a little, I think, bit around when someone outside the organizations drops an LP name word in a sentence, I would be a bit, I'm not sure you've earned the right to use that reference. Whereas, and I know that's bad, and I know it's a bit snobby, but I'm just letting you, I'm helping you understand the biases that exist inside every single human being. Whereas, Ivana, you've earned that right. So I would say to you, if you want to drop an earn trust or drop a dive deep or drop an ownership, then that would be fine, and probably it would help you. Would you add anything else, Evgeny?
God, no. That was extensive.
Sorry.
No,
It's
no,
a topic I
no,
don't
no,
get to talk
no.
about very much. So
I think it's excellent. It's more than anything that I would have ever said. Um, do you want to pick the next one, or do you want me
oh,
to
is
take
it
the
my
next
turn
one?
again? Okay. Okay. I haven't read this one too much, but let's see what that says. Do recruiters find candidates themselves, or are they assisted by AI? Some applications are rejected almost simultaneously. Okay, so okay, let me rephrase this because I don't think you're saying what you think you're saying. So, do recruiters find candidates themselves? Yes. There are different ways of sourcing candidates. Clearly, there is candidates apply to your role. Recruiters actually go and source candidates. So they use LinkedIn and they use other tools to actually go and find people who may or may not be in the market for a job but fit the profile of what they're looking for. And then recommendations. So internally, people will talk about knowing somebody who they think is great, and then they'll give that contact to the recruiter, and the recruiter will outbound them. So that is the do recruiters find candidates themselves? Are they assisted by artificial intelligence? That massively depends on what you mean by artificial intelligence. That everybody seems to have a huge kind of range in terms of what they're defining artificial intelligence as. So there's one tool that assists recruiters at Amazon in doing their job, and it is called Amazon Hire, and it is a ATS, applicant tracking system. It's effectively a filing cabinet where your resume comes in, a profile is created of you, your resume is attached to that profile. As far as I'm aware, having spoken to many, many, many recruiters in Amazon, they do not have any functionality in Hire where Hire makes decisions about whether to reject anybody or stack rank anybody. There is one functionality that they use in Hire, which is knockout questions. So there may be certain things that they have decided are predetermined requirements for a candidate that if a candidate does not have, the system will issue an automatic rejection. That's not artificial intelligence doing anything. That's a rule set triggering a email, right? It's no different from an email CRM system, if you like. Now, those knockout questions could be location. You know, they may not be willing to sponsor any visas. So if someone's location is outside of the US, they might reject them. It might be requires some kind of bachelor's degree, master's degree, some kind of qualification. If that's not on the resume, again, that criteria will be picked up and the system will just trigger the email to say, sorry, no. Those are the types of knockout questions that would create an automatic rejection. Every single other resume, as far as I'm aware from all of my conversations with my Amazon recruiter friends, will be reviewed by them using their pair of eyes, and they will decide whether to move that candidate on or whether to issue a rejection. Some applications are rejected almost simultaneously. I think you mean immediately rather than simultaneously. So that, yeah, I've covered that off. Hope that makes sense. Anything else, Yevgeny?
All I would say is, you know, knowing Amazon and knowing what Amazon is it likely that they will be adding internal tools that will use AI to help manage the pipeline of applications? I think yes. Have they done it yet? We don't know. I don't know. But should you be worried about it? No, for two reasons. Number one, it's absolutely nothing that you can control. right? So how they manage their candidate pipeline is entirely up to them. And the second thing is everything that we all are trying to achieve with artificial intelligence is to mimic human beings. So if your resume is designed to pass a review by a human, it will pass a review by an AI. Like that's pretty much all it is. So don't worry about it. And it's hard to know why your why your profile is getting immediately rejected, and everything else is exactly as Gigi said.
So I have just remembered actually one thing,
Mhm.
which is there are a small number of technical teams that are using a type of artificial intelligence to review people's resumes and then move them straight to Loop. So they've managed to work out what type of candidates are most likely to pass Loop, and they ping those ones straight to Loop. But those are candidates who are very highly technical, and you can see the information that's in their resume is very clearly indicating that they're very likely to pass Loop, and they flip them over.
Cool. Amazing. Thank you for this addition. So okay, so I'm gonna pick the next one. Well, we've got straight one here from Tamta. So the question is, I have been at my company for less than a year. Can I mostly tell cases from the previous positions to show my impact? I mean, look, generally speaking, I think our guidance, our standard guidance will apply here as well, and that is try to use stories, try to use situations from the past 5 years of your professional experience, and that includes that year that you have been at your company. Now, it's totally understandable that you might be thinking, "Ooh, have I delivered enough impact? Have I had enough time within this 1 year to deliver enough impact?" And what I would say is, you kind of need to be the judge of that. Ideally, use at least something from this year just to show that you haven't been sitting still. And there's a hack that I often recommend in my coaching sessions to candidates. Not necessarily in this situation that you're in, when you've just been at a company for a short period of time, but perhaps a candidate wants to use a situation from a project that hasn't yet fully delivered its final impact on sales or some sort of output metric, but for some reason the candidate wants to share it because perhaps it demonstrates the behaviors really, really well. In this case, what you can do is you can frame the objectives of your story in such a way that they don't necessarily no, don't use it. I don't like celery. Why am I saying celery?
Oh, I love
um, they don't necessarily point towards the end output. So rather than, for example, framing the objectives in your story as, sales or some sort of end goal, you frame them as the VP accepting your project into the further stage, right? So the just your project moving into the further stage, you frame it as, well, that is the success that you were looking for. And then in your results statement, this is what you use. You say that the project has been approved for the next stage, and the VP sent a nice email saying, "Great job, team." So that's how you can kind of go around the fact that maybe you don't have some sort of end goals and results happening within this short 1 year tenure that you've had in this company. But otherwise, yeah, it's totally fine to use the previous jobs within the last 5 years of your professional experience. Anything you'd add, Gigi?
Nope. That's what I would absolutely say. So I'm just going to quickly pull this one up for Rupa, because I don't want Rupa to think we've ignored her. So how long does Amazon keep resumes in their system? I have no idea. I would imagine a long time. I've certainly seen profiles of candidates that had applied 6 or 7 years before the period of time when they were applying for roles that I was hiring on. So I don't know exactly how long, but I would certainly say a relatively long period of time. Is there a particular reason why you're asking us that question, Rupa? If there is, and it's got some concern behind it, just let us know. We've got like 6 minutes left on this session. So if there's something behind it, ask us and then we might be able to help. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly do that one. So Sears, if you haven't really encountered a situation, the question asks, how can I answer it in this case? Can I continue saying that I haven't encountered such a situation? If I had, I'd have done this. No. Okay. So definitely don't make up hypotheticals, because hypotheticals is not how Amazon makes decisions on hiring, and you're just wasting your time and the interviewer's time, because that data would be completely disregarded. So here's the advice, and there is a video about this on the YouTube channel. I think it's called No Good Answer or something like that. This is what you say. If you think you have a slightly similar story that might fit, but you don't think it fits 100%, what I would recommend you say to the interviewer is, I don't quite have a story that fits that perfectly, but I have a story that I think might work. Can I summarize it for you in 4 or 5 sentences? And then maybe you could let me know whether you think it will work. And then you summarize your story in 4 or 5 sentences. You don't tell the whole end-to-end narrative, because that would be a waste of time if it won't work. Just summarize it in 3 to 4 sentences. If they say to you then, yep, that's fine, I think that'll work, then you can do your full-on kind of situation, task, action, results. If they say to you, no, I don't think that's going to work, which I've had to do on a number of occasions, then we would suggest you let them know that, I'm sorry, I don't think I have a good answer for this question. I don't want to waste your time or my opportunity. Can I have another question, please? It is okay to ask for another question. You just don't want to do it too often, because if you do it too often, it suggests that you don't have a consistent set of high bar experiences. And if you don't have a consistent set of high bar experiences or achievements, then Amazon isn't going to be interested. They want people who have a strong history and a consistent history of operating at a high level. Okay. Do you want to take the next one, Yevgeny? And then, we've got a couple of minutes, so maybe 1 or 2. Okay. Yeah, Rupa did have a reason why she asked that question. I thought she would. So we'll make sure that we get to that before we go, because I did say.
Okay, cool. So let's just do this one quickly. So the question is, will it be okay to say in an interview with a hiring manager that you already received a couple of offers, or is it better to write to the recruiter about it later? So I would use this as a negotiating tool. So I wouldn't. There's nothing. If I'm a hiring manager and the candidate already has some offers, the only thing that this would might potentially improve for the candidate is the speed with which I'm chasing recruiters and coordinators to schedule the loop interview. But to be honest, if I have a pipeline of candidates already lined up, I might not be so incentivized to do that. So my advice is keep it to your salary negotiation stage, where this information does become leverage and it is relevant. Anything you'd add, Gigi?
No, I would agree.
Cool. Do you want to go to that?
Should we pull up Rupa, and then we'll make sure we give everyone the freebie that we know they're all going to want, because it's the best freebie on the internet, I promise. Well, possibly not the best freebie on the internet, but definitely the best freebie associated with...
the best freebie of the internet. Gigi is just being very
I'm
British,
being modest.
very polite, very modest, too modest. It's the best thing since sliced bread, by the way.
God, if that's the best thing that you can get free on the internet really isn't matching its selling points. Anyway, moving on. So you got rejected, Rupa, earlier. So you're trying to apply modifying your resume, trying to see if there'd be conflicts in how the resume was shared earlier and the new version emphasizing on different skill sets. Okay, so what will simply happen, Rupa, is every time you submit a new resume, it will overwrite the last one. They don't keep multiple versions of your resume. So if you're applying for a different role and you want to emphasize different elements of your resume, that's fine. Because as soon as you submit it, it will overwrite the last resume, and no one will ever know that the other resume looked different to this resume. Sometimes the system does have a little bit of a blip, and it doesn't do that, and you end up looking at the old resume rather than the new resume. I know this because on plenty of occasions, people's resumes lacked current information, and I was looking at resumes where the current role was in the current role was in like 2022 or no 2002, and that threw me, and that was why, because the new version hadn't been updated properly. But that's very rare. So I would say, Rupert, just update your resume, upload it, it will overwrite the last one, and then no one will be any the wiser. Okay, so that's it. So folks, let me just give you this incredible freebie. So here we go. As if we didn't give you enough free, incredible content on YouTube, we are also offering you another piece of free, incredible content. This is our customer obsession masterclass. So you will know, as I've just mentioned, I think throughout this session, you have to understand the leadership principles. You will be hired based on whether you demonstrate the behaviors of the leadership principles. Our content, and this is a taster of it, goes deep, deep, deep into each of the leadership principles so that you really, really understand them. So this particular module is about customer obsession. It's got 3 parts to it. The first part is deconstructing what we call the facets. Essentially, every leadership principle has multiple kind of angles to it, and we've coined a term, facets, at Day One Careers. We've broken them down for you on customer obsession. I think there are 4 of them. So this content will teach you about those 4 cute little videos and animations that we worked really hard on. The second part of it is it will help you understand what your interviewer is looking for. What do they want to hear you say about your behavior so that they can see you are customer obsessed? And then the third part of the module is just a mock interview, me interviewing me, no wigs involved, just different lipstick and glasses and outfits. I can do wigs now, moving on, and you'll never know it's the same person. I might try some accents as well, but just an illustration of how it all might come together in an actual interview. And you'll be able to hear, I note where I demonstrate the behaviors that the interviewer is looking for. So I highly recommend everybody gets it. Completely free, comes with access to our community where you can come and join and try and do mock interviews with other Amazon applicants and ask us questions. And yeah, everyone's going to be tested on customer obsession at some point in their Amazon interview journey if you make it through to the end. So everyone should take this out. There's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't. I think that's it. Have you got anything else to add, Evgeny?
Not at all. I think it's been a great session, great questions, awesome crowd. Folks, we're waiting for all of you in our community. And those of you who are interviewing imminently, good luck. Smash it and come and tell us. Come to our community, tell us how it went, and leave us a comment to this video. Tell us how it went. We're keen to know. But otherwise, we'll see you, I believe, next week.
For a new wig.
With a new wig.
And maybe you're going to wear a wig.
Do you know what, Gigi? I think I might wear a wig, but I think you should wear a little, like a red dress with a hood and have a basket with a bread and butter with this. Oh,
you think this one's you think this is Little Red Riding Hood looking?
And yeah, and I'll do the kind of the big bad wolf thing or whatever that character is. That's gonna be great.
I'm not sure we're headed in the right direction for this content.
We'll have to market
Maybe that's our other YouTube channel, Evgeny.
Indeed.
All right.
On this note, take care.
See you, Evgeny. Bye.
See ya.